Ever wonder what the future holds? Imagine if you could connect the dots to see beyond where your business is today to where it could be in the future. Would you begin to see ways to make improvements? Or see what once seemed impossible is now within reach? Technology is rapidly accelerating the transformation of your business. It's changing the way we work. Imagine if the most vital parts of your business were connected: people, assets, processes, and systems. Everything from your factory floor to the field. With the Internet of Things, they can be. And simple changes can transform your business right now. With the Internet of Things, you can extend your business's reach and make better use of its resources. Data that was once untapped is now an asset. Even the most critical issues can be solved in real time. You can see ways to make the most of every moment. The reasons why you should embrace the Internet of Things are clear, but how do you get started? We believe the Internet of Things begins with your things, the things that matter most to your business. Start small, from where you are today, and build from there. Make the most of systems you already have in place. Use familiar devices or services in new ways. Tap into the cloud for better scale and control. Microsoft can help you get started today. We can help you connect assets across your business using your existing technology, investments, and data. We can help you transition from today into the future so you can transform your business. Because when your business is more connected, the possibilities are endless. Welcome to the Internet of Your Things.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Oliver Niedung. Well, thanks for the invitation here, and it's a huge pleasure for me to be invited at this great event here. And I think from my predecessor, I have to say thank you a lot, because it was really getting you very much sensibilized about the opportunity itself, about what it really means, and I guess most of you are really very aware of it. So actually, I want to take it one step further from just the challenge and the opportunity into really making things tangible in order to what are the essential steps you could really take in order to use the challenge and really take IoT as a game changer in your favor, not just as a risk that actually you could be confronted to. So if you look at where we thought a couple of years back, 6 years back, where IoT, how it would look like in the future, this is how it looked like in the beginning. So we thought, okay, this is how we want to structure and look at scenarios where you actually come from home to your workplace and find scenarios and then going back and find solutions for that. Well, guess what? It came differently. Things have dramatically changed over time, and this is just a snapshot. When we go further, a year or two from now, probably things won't even fit on the slide anymore. And this is really just a snapshot of many, many things. But I think, again, you've been sensibilized a lot about the issue. But nevertheless, I wanted to give you a quick definition that we think is really matches before we then go into the tactics of things you can do. With this definition, I don't want to read it myself, but it really encapsulates all the essential things that really matter. It talks about the things. It talks about advanced services. And this is really the big differentiation. I'm going to focus a lot on services, because in the end, all you want to do around IoT is you want to look at your specific value add, but the services you can create that really take down cost from somebody, that help somebody become more competitive. And how do you get there? So I'm going to take this little journey with you to get there and already take the information that's existing and that is evolving also. Now, when you look at some of the things that you want to improve, there's actually the 3 segments of improve efficiency, enable innovation, and also transform your business. And a couple of the statements that would actually help you is to see, okay, what are the challenges that people typically are exposed to? And these are just a couple of statements that some of you might find yourself or mostly your customers back. And then the question is, okay, how do I really address these challenges? How can I really find a solution in order to address these pain points? And this is really the idea, to use the opportunity. And actually, the first step is something, when you come from the left into the acknowledgement of the disruption. This is obviously something that, again, Cisco did a really good job in making you aware of. It is happening anyway. You see it in things like print, taxi, hotels, and so on. I don't want to repeat on that one. But actually, once you're there, there's actually essential components in going to IoT that enable you to monetize, to build services around it. And so I'm going to go with you through a little journey from devices over connectivity, security, cloud, analytics, and visualization. Then in the end, there's going to be a dramatic shift in how you're going to sell. So let's start looking into that. And the acknowledgement of the disruption is actually the first thing that you've heard a lot again about. But the big change that we're seeing is from companies that were existing before, they had a long life cycle until they actually went out of business. So from the from the S&P 500 companies, they actually reduced significantly from 90 years in average in 1935 down to today's 18 years. And this shows you both the opportunity and the challenge. Actually, one forecast is also 2016 is going to be the first year where companies will spend more money in the cloud than in on-premises technology. So this is actually all happening right now already. Let's look into things that change with devices. So devices we all use and we all love, actually. One of the things that really dramatically changes is in the Internet of Things, there's new types of devices coming up. Many of you actually might use wearables today. And wearables are one of the examples that are starting as consumer devices, and they really add a lot of value if you want to do a quantified self. But if you now think in advance, forecast is that about 70% of the business in IoT, also including wearables, will come from B2B. Now think about the solutions that you could actually do by building wearables in a professional manner from B2B. Think about opportunities in healthcare, opportunities in transportation, in retail, and so on, where you actually equip every contributor to a service with a device where you can really get all the telemetry data and build services around it. A lot of these opportunities really are also there where you might want to take some personal assistant right for that profession. So there's actually personal assistant technologies like Cortana or Siri or others that you might want to take. So really in order to, in your environment, to not just know actually where you are at this point, but really that helps you in your specific challenge that you're in actually to really achieve things that have not been possible before. There's battery-driven sensors that you might actually just attach to your devices and get sensoric information out of that. These are really opportunities that have not been there before. And so devices is the first step actually where there's a lot of innovation right now happening, and that enables a lot of business models here. Connectivity, next big thing. I mean, my kids think, for example, when the Wi-Fi signal doesn't go through to your device, that's the time to clean up the room before it doesn't really matter to clean up your room. But in terms of connectivity, the big thing that really is so different to before is really, before people were not really able to connect. Right now there's more and more connectivity, but it's still an issue, right? So still, how do you get devices connected? Actually, our approach is here to say, well, we enable people to really connect any device. So we're building software development kits that you can download from things like GitHub and other sources, where you can take actually the source code, download it, and you can not just integrate new devices into cloud scenarios, but you can really actually take them and retrofit legacy devices that are already out in field, and then reconnect them to the cloud. And that could be directly, as you might see actually in the very top, or you might want to go through a protocol conversion, because in IoT, there's so many protocols right now that need to be supported. We have a technology also where you can really take your custom protocol and do this protocol adaptation, whether it sits on the cloud side or on the gateway side. And certainly also, there might be some devices that you might want to connect actually that might want to go through a field gateway because they are not, where you don't have the source code. And so you could actually really go through the device gateway to enable this cloud connectivity. Security is a very big one, as we all mentioned. So the biggest thing we're seeing is, this is an example, when you build up a cloud data center of things, of parts of things that you need to do in order to really run a secure cloud. Again, it's not complete, it's one of the things. And if you as a mid-sized company need to build the same thing in order to run secure in your cloud environment, this is going to be a tremendous effort. And a lot of the pressure we're seeing actually coming onto the cloud and with secure connectivity is really to make sure you can operate on the very highest level of security by taking all these actions and making sure your architecture is protected and secured in a way. This is something where you really need to be able to do that. And this is where we're taking an approach on the security where we actually take a lot of the burden away from you, that we have a secure defense in-depth approach for all the devices connected to the cloud. And on the cloud side, we really protect every single layer of that. Now, talking about the cloud, this is obviously one of the biggest ones where we see tremendous change. And the one thing we're seeing is really on the hybrid cloud, the big different changes that are just happening. So one of the things is, on the one hand side, there's so much pressure on pricing on the cloud because the cloud was actually started as a cheap way to get compute services. And people started to use it really just as a local storage that is cheap. Now, that is not really IoT. It is an essential start. The real IoT starts when you add services, when you do things with the data. Before going there, though, you need to actually have a hybrid approach to it. And what you see here is actually one of the implementations. So when you look at Azure, these are the active Azure nodes that we have today. The green ones are announced but not yet active. And beyond just the public service, which is always the preferred one because it's actually the cheapest one that you might ever get, there's a lot of pressure to have also local cloud services. So this is why we're going to announce, so we announced already and we're going to launch later this year, the Azure Stack technology. So anybody can take Azure Stack, and through the same tools and technology, you can run actually your local initiation of Azure in your data center, whether it is on your premises or whether it is hosted. That enables you to really have a way to approach a lot of requirements that are not possible through a pure private cloud approach. Because you might want to take a lot of the computation power from the public cloud when you want to train models for machine learning, for example. When you have situations like connected cars, where you want to know if there is an airbag going up in a car in a certain area, you want to send actually notifications to all other cars in that environment. But actually, this is something where you need to really scale globally. On the other hand side, there's a lot of reasons for keeping data also local, whether it is for privacy reasons, for legal reasons, or sometimes also for delay reasons. So sometimes you may need to actually act locally independent whether you have internet connectivity or not. So this is where you actually can build your own private cloud and benefit from there. So in manufacturing processes, for example, it's super essential that you really build a local data center that can act immediately. But a lot of the workloads, actually, you can then also move back and forth to the cloud where you actually can use the impact of the cost savings there. One of the other things I wanted to make sure I mention here is Microsoft has changed a lot in the past because we have now actually opened up and we have the so-called Big Tent strategy. So whatever technology is important for customer scenarios to run in the cloud, we're actually opening up the platform for everybody. So the main thing is we want to have a platform that people can contribute. So you can have Windows instances running there. You might want to have Linux running on there. We're working with companies like IBM or lots of Salesforce and others. So they actually are using our cloud infrastructure because customers are asking for it. So this is why having the elastic cloud is an essential step really in order to really build solutions that scale and that comply with local requirements. Now coming to the most important part actually, which is advanced analytics here. And advanced analytics is really a so-called glimpse of the future. So a lot of the business intelligence that you might have experienced in the past really looks back. So the traditional BI is the hint side. So you see, you get the data, typically a lot of telemetry data from the various machines and devices and sensors. So you might want to get them really onto one place where you then actually can derive patterns. You want to know which parameters actually are causing a certain effect. Now, by knowing this, you can then at any point of time from the same sensors or other sensors take the information and predict what will happen, because through machine learning, you actually have this dependency. And this is, once you have trained the model, you can actually either lock down the model and use it as a service, or you actually might want to improve that over time so that the service itself becomes better and better. And with that, actually, you can have predictive analytics as well as also prescriptive analytics, where you actually can make things happen in a way how you want to make it happen. So there's examples like things we did with ThyssenKrupp elevators, where we looked into what are the sensoric information, like vibrations and temperature, where we were able to predict on a very high comfort level when, under which circumstances, an elevator will fail. So in the past, people were investing into redundancy. So you put in extra hardware to make sure if one thing failed, it still keeps running. The next thing you did is you actually had regular service representative going to an elevator on a manufacturing machine because you didn't know what's happening in the machine. Now with advanced analytics, it's actually the opposite. You can save a lot of money by knowing what's really happening with this machine in this very specific construction process, right? So you don't have to put in a lot of extra cost for redundancy, and you don't have to do all the regular maintenance unless it's legally required. You are there to fix the device, to fix the application just before it breaks, hopefully in most cases actually. And there's a couple of examples that I actually put in here where we're working with a number of partners that are really actually working on a lot of these implementations. Now, think a little bit forward. Some of you might know from Siri or from Cortana simple questions that you might actually want to ask your device. So here's an example like, how far is it from here to, to the airport? Or so things like this, or predictions. So who do you think is going to win a game? Or you can have alerts, whether it's bad traffic, like yesterday, or whether you want to complete a task. Well, these are simple device-related questions that you actually can raise. Now think if you really put advanced analytics into it, what are the things that are really possible through that? And this is really something where you might want to use things, and our way to do this is actually Azure machine learning. But the whole industry, a lot of the vendors are actually providing a lot of the advanced analytics technology. And that actually typically allows you to do these kind of things with the Cortana Analytics Suite, which is a suite of services from Azure to make it easier for you actually to embrace this. And so you can now really ask, so which have been the biggest deals in the last month? Or really, which customers are going to churn most likely in the next quarter? So you can take actions because you can actually take publicly available data, you can take your local data to really do predictions and to prevent things. And one of the most powerful things that you can do there is to maintain policies. So there might be a lot of policies in order you need to actually maybe maintain certain devices, you need to really comply with certain legal requirements, so you don't need to have to take care yourself of it, but this is something you can actually give to Cortana Analytics, so that actually the Cortana Analytics makes sure that you are in compliance with all these requirements from your policies. Now, if not here in Iceland, where you have this wonderful mixture between the spirit of play and very deep technical and engineering understanding, this is where I would really like to encourage you to play with advanced analytics. And I know many people think it is still a little bit of rocket science and it's too far away, it's too difficult there. And I really, really would like to encourage you, it is no rocket science. And when you have time at the weekend or over the next days, play with it. So we have some experiments actually, and I gave you the link here that you might want to use. And there's actually experiments that you can just play around with a little bit. So there's some ideas like classification, so it's sentiment analysis. So maybe you have some customers who were launching products and they want to know, well, what do people think about my product? Well, that could be a big effort. If you actually take Cortana Analytics, actually you can just take Azure Machine Learning, you can very easily just grab the various sites, get a sentiment, and then you can actually get a sentiment view of how people think about the product as a service to your customer. Or there's, as an example, predict wine quality. So with data like where it was, the wine was grown, which year, how much sun, and so on, you actually get a prediction, and this is just for wine, whatever your special vertical subject matter is, you actually can predict things about the outcome of the expectation of certain goods that you're producing or that your customer is producing. Or things that are like, well, think you were a passenger of the Titanic. How was your probability to survive? So it's an easy trained model. So this is where you can very easily see, okay, where is the data coming from? What is the prediction doing? So again, I really would like to encourage you to play with it, try it, because machine learning is something where you really need only the data, a little bit of human input, and then you're able to do the prediction. And this is the basic thing to really offer the new services. So once you get the idea, it's actually pretty easy to use. So what most people then actually do is they train a model, and then they publish this model as a service. So just with an HTTP query, you actually send parameters, you get the results back, and through that, actually, you can then visualize it and then act upon it. Another one is it's actually great for parties, is howold.net. So this is one thing we actually did. We took actually hundreds of thousands of pictures from people where we know how old they were. So we put them into Azure Machine Learning, and without us telling the system, we really let the system train itself to find the things in your face where you can say, okay, these kind of parameters will actually be mapped to a certain age. So it's actually quite fun. It depends a lot on the quality of the picture, but really to see how old you might be according to machine learning is actually sometimes something quite fun. It also shows you the power of this in certain areas. One of the biggest things then in the end, in order to make really good, mature decisions, is actually Power BI, or there's actually a number of visualization technologies. Ours is Power BI at this point. What this really does is you want to take technology that is presenting complex data in near real time. So rather than having an Excel spreadsheet that shows you that was the data like 2 hours ago, you want to have data that is always up to date, where you can actually play with the data in your role. Not the CEO might want to see something different than a product manager or than a service representative. So you can really give the data for that specific person really in his role, and he can play even with the data. He can do predictions, and actually you can really work with the dynamic, always up-to-date, near real-time data on all kind of devices. So this is actually why we made Power BI one of the key tools for many decision makers to really have founded and very matured decisions that they can really rely on, because they understand the dependencies and they actually can get all the insight that they require. Well, the last thing on this step, actually, on this journey, is really sales. I mean, because in the past, people have typically just sold a product, maybe a little service around it, but it's really mostly around doing a product sale. Well, this is now completely different. Rather than going in and saying, well, this is the product, and this is how we can actually work with it, the refurbished sale is going to really look into what are the biggest cost factors in your specific scenario. What are the things where you get the most churn, where you're losing actually your customer base? What are the things that your support is most busy with? Well, once you know these items, actually, you can really then focus on the sales to identify the new kind of services that are making a big difference in their lives, because they can dramatically improve their experience, whether it is a wearable where you can, again, then track people and build new services to optimize certain steps in manufacturing or paths, or optimize actually consumption of gas or power, or whether this is something where, besides the wearable, you really build a service for predictive maintenance. or remote monitoring, which is one of the things where people have fastest return on invest these days, because once you actually can remotely log into a device and do local support there, this is something where you can, rather than sending a personal, immediately get very strong return on invest here. Now coming back actually to the various components of really using the disruptive opportunity, well, this is where we started actually. And the opportunity is really, it's in a big way there that really the business opportunity is significant in all these steps. So whether you look more into providing cloud services, whether you want to really do more like machine-to-machine communication, for your specific business, there's always going to be some of these services where you might want to make a big difference on, and that you actually might want to pick some of these in order to really make a difference in the area of the Internet of Things. And with that, actually, I want to thank you for your attention. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. I hope I was giving you some insight there. If there are specific questions, we actually have a booth downstairs, so we would be happy to welcome you and having a deeper dive conversation on that one. There's a few links here if you want to play again around it. We can recommend you to play with the machine learning capabilities on that side. And thank you very much for your attention.